his commencement speech, His Highness the Aga Khan said that our encounters are full of, quote, complexity and rich dimensionality. What makes our current time distinctive are the combinations of people and cultures participating in these encounters, unquote. Today, I will be sharing the story of my encounter with my mental health. My story begins in November of 2019. I was 3 months into grade 11, and I started to feel overwhelmed by school and social pressures. I started to experience high amounts of anxiety. My days became a cycle of snoozed alarms from bad sleep and mornings full of music in an attempt to drown out anxious thoughts. I started missing school, and I stayed home in bed more days than I attended class. When I did attend school, my head was full of anxious thoughts, and I had to work twice as hard to keep up my grades. I could no longer eat lunch in the school cafeteria without having a panic attack, and I started being triggered by large groups. I stopped eating, and I started pushing away the people in my life. I was used to the anxiety. What I wasn't used to was the way that it manifested itself in my life. My entire world seemed to shift on its axis. In December of that year, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety, panic attacks, and depression. I started taking antidepressants and attending weekly sessions with a therapist, but I was disappointed by how little my life was changing with treatment. Like the impatient teenager I am, I thought that I could just take some pills, talk about my feelings once a week, and I would be cured. In fact, while the antidepressants provided me with energy and eliminated some of my worst symptoms of depression, my anxiety actually got worse. I went from having panic attacks once every 2 weeks to twice a week. I stopped authentically hanging out with my friends and family, and I completely lost my ability to concentrate in class. I spent months impatiently waiting to outgrow my mental illness like an old pair of shoes. I just wanted to be normal, so I ignored all the thoughts and feelings that made me appear differently from the people around me. I became exhausted from fighting my mental illness. In January of that year, I was hanging out with some friends when my mind started racing and I couldn't breathe. I remember quietly leaving the group and sitting alone in my friend's bathroom. I did everything I could to stop my panic attack. I tried listening to music, I tried chewing gum, I tried breathing exercises, but nothing worked. About 15 minutes later, my friend found me shaking on the bathroom floor. I was so angry because I couldn't turn off my anxiety. I felt powerless. Instead of trying to pull me out of it like I had been trying so desperately to do, my friend held my hand throughout my panic attack. She became a shoulder for me to cry on, and I found myself sharing all the thoughts and feelings that I had been trying so desperately to ignore. And although it was one of my worst panic attacks, after about an hour, I felt the best that I had in months. I started to wonder what would happen if I stopped trying to push away my mental illness. And so, over the next few weeks, I tried embracing my anxiety and depression. I immediately noticed improvements in my life. My anxiety didn't go away, but I started going to school despite it. I still got panic attacks, but they were shorter and less frequent because I let myself feel the anxiety, sit in it, and then continue with my day. I stopped being embarrassed about my mental illness, and I started opening up to my friends and family. I was shocked by how understanding they all were. And while my anxiety and depression were still ever so present, I stopped feeling isolated. As soon as I stopped viewing my mental illness as the enemy, I stopped letting it control my life. My mental illness is still there, but I stopped trying to outgrow it, and I learned to embrace it instead. Strangely enough, looking back, I realized that over the past few months, I've been more connected to the people in my life than ever before. I started to wonder how this could be. Was it just a coincidence? Or had my mental illness actually helped me? A few weeks ago in class, we watched a TED Talk by Kelly McGonigal called How to Make Stress Your Friend. Turns out, in stressful situations, your body releases oxytocin with cortisol, its natural stress hormone. Oxytocin is the hormone in the human body that creates cravings for social connection and human bonding. Hence, it's commonly referred to as the cuddle hormone. What I find most interesting about oxytocin is that your body's natural reaction to stress is to crave human connection. My anxiety let me form deeper bonds with the people in my life, and I am so grateful for that. All of a sudden, everything started to click together in my mind. My mental illness is not isolating. Pretending it doesn't exist is. All of a sudden, my entire mindset began to shift, and I started to see the beauty in my mental illness. While regularly dealing with anxiety and panic attacks can be incredibly challenging, the coping strategies that I've been forced to learn at an early age are invaluable. Anxiety and stress are normal parts of the human experience, and most people aren't taught how to manage them in a healthy way. At the age of 16, I can feel anxiety, sit in it, and come out positively. I have learned life skills that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. And not only have I learned individual life skills, but I've also become more in tune with the way that I interact and encounter the people in my life. Empathy has always been a strong and central part of who I am. In 2016, I went with my family to hand out 100 lunches to the homeless in the downtown east side of Vancouver. While this experience was special to me because I was able to make a difference in my local community, it became an essential moment in my life because I was able to interact and empathize with those less privileged than myself. Many of the people I met were where they were as a result of their mental illness. Because I intimately struggle with mental health, I was able to empathize with the people that I met. In that moment, my mental illness gifted me the capacity for empathy. However, it would be naive of me to assume that I understood the circumstances of every person that I met. So, instead of trying to focus on understanding what they were going through, I focused on understanding what they were feeling. Humans innately feel emotions in opposites. We know happiness because we know sadness, and we know sadness because we know happiness. As a result of this, my depression has gifted me with the ability to feel emotions incredibly deeply. This is reflected in my capacity for empathy. As human beings, we're solely connected by our emotions. Each of us will experience different things throughout our lives, but the associated feelings are universal. So, instead of focusing on empathizing with what the people I met were going through, I empathized with what they were feeling. This experience inspired me to create Lunch, a nonprofit organization working towards providing meals for those in need. This initiative is funded by my social entrepreneurship business, Mix, Munch, and Lunch. And since then, every few months I go with a group of friends and family to hand out 100 lunches to the homeless in the downtown east side. Not only has my mental illness made me a better person and let me help my local community, but I've been able to share this gift with other youth in my community. With adversity comes beautiful things. Just as the adversity of the Mongol Empire gave rise to beautiful Timurid architecture, the adversity of my mental illness gave rise to beautiful connections within my community. If you look at history, the moments that became essential moments in history were when cultures and societies merged. With these encounters flourishes the most beautiful things. There are Islamic mosques in China that combine architecture from all across Asia. Philosophy and science are a direct manifestation of the intellectual encounters between languages such as Greek, Syriac, and Sanskrit. The foundation of development has always been the exchange of ideas between different perspectives and ways of seeing the world. Our society is built off of pluralism, and like gender, ethnicity, and past experiences, mental illness is just another form of diversity. I'm not trying to minimize the struggle of mental illness. Trust me, I understand how hard living with it is. But what I want to emphasize is that despite its challenges, my mental illness has made me a better person, has allowed me to connect on a deeper and more intimate level with the people in my community, and has provided you with a unique and beautiful way of seeing the world. My mental illness has gifted me something that no one else can offer, and that's my gift for the world. I'm a result of my mental illness, and I could not be more grateful. Thank you.